Welcome to the very last lesson of the Chapter 1 Swift Fundamentals with Bob the Developer. You've come a long way. In this lesson, you will learn how to create fake names for anything in Swift. This lesson should be nice and short. Let's get started. Here we go, let's get started. So here's a problem statement. The parameters are unreadable and boring. Well, let's find out how we can solve this problem. Typealias is nothing more than providing a fake name. So let's make a fake name for string, for example. Call it typealias for string value. Okay, so the only thing you have to do is call it typealias, okay, and then let's say name, and then this is a string value. So now what's happening is when you make a function, let's call it insert name, and you can call it string value, but you can just enter name instead. Okay, that still works, and print name. Okay, so if you are confused by that, what you can do is you can go click on option, click on this, click on this. You'll see that name equals string value. So you can do that. So when do we use it? Well, it can be used for you can create a type alias for a custom class. For example, when you can call it type alias, and then let's call it employee. Okay, and then this is employee. First, we're gonna make a class first. Call it employee. Okay, here we go. And then we can call it my employees, and instead you can call it employees with an array value, employee, like that. Boom. Okay, so we can make a function. What it does is list employees, and instead of using employee with this one, you can call it my employees instead. Employees, you can call it my employees instead. Here we go. Okay, so now that's what's happening. So you can my employees ask you to here we go. You're gonna enter employee object, something like that. Okay, should work. All good. So here we go. So next one is typealias for tuple. So when do you use tuple? Well, first let's create a typealias. Let's call this grid point, and next one is let's call this int as well as int. Okay, boom. Okay, so now let's create a function enter point. So instead of using this int.int, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is grid and then grid point. So now it becomes more neat, right? You don't have to put this provides a little more context around. So now we can do print grid point 0 and print grids point 1. Okay, you don't have to use this. Typealias is just it's like a supplementary. You don't have to use it, but as long as it provides more readability, yeah, why not? When you learn about Chapter 3, Chapter 6, learning about function programming, when you use a lot of closure, when you learn about completion handler blocks, you definitely want to use typealias down the road. I'll definitely use it in the next course. Okay, here we go. So now we do enter grid point, and you enter grid point, and you can enter, here we go, right there. And 1 and 2 on the bottom, and that's what we wanted. That's it. That's what typealias is. It was nice and simple. But since it was a short lesson, I want to go through a little bit of a type definition. There are a couple ways to make an array, a dictionary. This is aside from the typealias, but I just want to go over and review with you guys. So there are many ways to create an array value. For those who didn't know about this, array type. Okay, there are many ways to make an array type. The first one is, I'm just going to copy paste because the first one is, again, we talked about before, or we have not. Array is nothing more than struct. Okay, a generic struct. So you can define the type of an array with defining the T here, and then you can create an object like that, array, and then boom. what's happening is array 1 is an empty array. So let's call it array 1, and we have this method called isEmpty. It's going to return true, and as you can tell on the top here, this is empty, this is empty. All right, this is one way to make an array. Okay, or you could also add you can add an array type like here, like this, if you wanted to. If you want to initialize it, here we go. Okay, and you can also, you don't have to, you can use this method as well. Okay, so when you do this method, what's happening is when this Swift is compiled, transpiled into this language, and then compiled into machine code. Okay, so when you use this method, what's happening is, all right, this is happening here, and then this is happening behind the scene. Okay, number 2, and then number 3 is turning into machine code, which the CPU can understand, execute this code. Okay, so the same thing applies to dictionary type as well. Dictionary type. Okay, so let's call it dic1, and the one way is to use it this way, right? And we can call it, just copy paste this, right? One way is to use this one. The second way is to use this way. Okay, in chapter 10, what we talk about, we're going to learn a lot more about dictionary features that come along with dictionary in chapter 10. That's a long way to go about, but you'll definitely appreciate what we're going to offer. In Swift 4, it offers many ways to initialize a dictionary object. You're going to learn a lot about that down the road. And lastly, talk about optional type. Well, optional type is also not a magic. We're all going to talk more about optional type in chapter 8, learning about enum, but you can create an optional like this way. But also the other way is optional 2. You can call it optional, and then string value. Here we go. You can also create an option like this way. This is also nil on the bottom. Well, I want to learn more about this later down the road in chapter learning about enum. Okay, so just want to go over, make sure that array, dictionary, optional, those are just struct value. If you're not, but optional is enum. But I'm gonna talk about more in later chapters. Yeah, I just want to go over that there are many ways to initialize an object. Okay, it was a great lesson, short and nice. See you in the next lesson, and bye-bye. Boom, that's it. You've learned how to fake something. Well, let's talk more in the next video.